I want to hear the cop terminology, how he would have said it. He would have said, he's not going to back you if you have to do a drop. Is that the right sentence?
Do not trust them if you're doing a drop. That's it, regardless of what the drop is. If it's a gun, drugs, whatever, it's a drop.
It's such a common term in the cop world that everybody knows what a drop is.
Everybody knew what a drop was. Everybody.
How does
Chille, I'm telling you because you're not off, okay? And what you believe and what you think, and that's why I've always stood up for you, and that's why I know what these did to James Sheets.
When does this happen though? When is the first report that you write that contradicts another cop's report?
Rodney King happened.
And is there more camaraderie within policing, or the cops are afraid of each other?
No, everybody's afraid of each other. As far as in their head, they know that if I'm on the street and I see something that's going to get them not just fired, but possibly put in jail, they wanted nothing to do with me, you know, because all they have to do is fuck up one time and they're done.
What's the lingo that uses?
Whatever you do, don't have him back you up. Don't ever think that you can throw a drop on somebody, or if you're in something and you try to get yourself in, if you're trying to get yourself out of something and dropping something such as drugs or a gun or anything else.
So when he says don't trust if you have to do a drop, regardless of what the drop is. So right. Do cops carry around a gun, some drugs, a needle?
Always. They knew me and they knew how I was. They knew I wouldn't lie. They knew I wouldn't say anything against them. You know, I wouldn't.
You're not going to lie on a report.
I'm not, and I wouldn't. I never would. If my report was different than his report, or if I was told, and I was told to rewrite the report, and I told him, no, I'm not going to do it. We were coming up on a crosswalk for a pedestrian, and he saw that there was a pedestrian in a crosswalk. So as this guy's making conversation, you know, he's basically telling him, you know, off or whatever, and slams on the brake of the car. Guy's face goes right into the plexiglass. Right, and think about it. You're going 35, 40 miles an hour. He slammed the brakes, smashing his face into the plexiglass. The Rodney King riots, when they beat the shit out of that guy, you know what I mean? They beat the hell out of that guy, you know, and that was all done just to kill. You know, they wanted that guy to die, man. They didn't care about him. You know, that dude, you know, I still believe he was killed. I believe his death was staged. Chille, I'm telling you because you're not off, okay? And what you believe and what you think. And that's why I've always stood up for you. And that's why I know what did to James Sheets. I'm into your work for it. Mostly like all the sheriffs, like LA sheriffs, and the gangs that the sheriff's department has are all true blue. And they are gangs, and LAPD's got the same situation. All of them, every one of them, whenever they find a gun that the serial numbers have been written or have been taken off, they have them. That's their drop. That's what they use as a drop. A bed sheet. They usually have a knife or a gun on them. That's why they always wear gloves too, by the way, because they're always wiping that shit down. It's just dirty shit, you know.
The cops always have an extra gun or a knife on them.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So that would mean that if we were going to audit a cop and truly audit them, yeah, I can hear you, man. Sorry. I'm calling myself in there, so I can cut in and out. So.
What's up, brother?
Well, I don't know what the laws are there, but I have to tell you, even from Colombia, all my calls are recorded.
Well, I already know that.
But I always, you know what? I'm so used to it saying it now that I just always say it. But I want to talk about you. I want to talk about.
Something, man. Listen, I'm gonna be honest with you. I told you that because I care about you, okay? And I told you that because I don't tell a lot of people that story. And the reason why I don't tell people that story is because if people find out that when I was in the crime prevention unit, especially when I tell them where, I'm sure I was there and I loved it. I loved being there, and I loved working with the department. And when our chief was there and everything, he was a great chief. But there were so many dirty cops, and the reason why I didn't want nothing to do with it is because of all the dirtiness that you see. You know, just here's a prime example. I'll take this as a prime example. When I was with one of the officers, we were driving. We had picked up a drunk guy at a restaurant. He was just drunk, no biggie. But the restaurant owner wanted the guy booted out of there. And back then, you know, you think about it. Back in the '80s, it's different than what it is today. Okay. Everything is totally different than what it was back then. And
well, what's the one? Can you tell me the one reason why?
One reason why is cameras.
There it is. It's the camera now.
Right.
You can't just go in there and take those.
No. Plus there's cameras in the car. Okay, so remember that too. And you know, back then, you know, we didn't carry, and I always carried a recorder with me. Okay. And that was the one thing I always carried was a tape recorder, because I was not going to be accused of anything that I didn't do. All right. So we get to this guy, and he was just drunk. He was just drunk. Put him in the cage. That's what he wanted to do. I think his name was the officer. He was a corporal at the time. He arrested him, and then he took him to the police station. Well, while we were going to the police station, he was saying some shit in the back, and all of a sudden, we were coming up on a crosswalk for a pedestrian, and he saw that there was a pedestrian in a crosswalk. So as this guy's making conversation, you know, he's basically telling him, you know, f*** off or whatever, and slams on the brakes of the car. Guy's face goes right into the plexiglass. And I'm like, oh, right. And think about it. You're going 35, 40 miles an hour, and the guy slams on his brakes, and he shoves him right in the window, man. You know, and I just, you know, it was wrong, and it wasn't right, man. And that's the shit that I'm talking about, you know. Just even little shit like that bothered me. You know, going through that kind of shit, I wanted nothing to do with it. And that's why I wanted to be in the crime prevention unit instead of going through the police department and having, you know, being a part of the uniformed officers. I'd rather just be with the kids and go to the schools, have the experience of being able to help people set up neighborhood block watches and stuff, and just do city patrols and stuff, and check houses and stuff, you know, or calls that were accidents. I'd always go to the accident calls and block traffic and shit, you know, but I would never, ever, after that shit, I just shied myself away from it. And we had the details to where we would go out. We'd have to, as a police reserve, you can only, or voluntarily, you can only go out. You have to put in so much time per month. And this is when you're making your decision and what you wanted to do. And you know, during this time period, this is what I wanted. This is where I wanted to go, and I wanted to base, you know, my life on this. You know, I really wanted to become a police officer, and
you did.
It came down to the point to where, though, do you want to be this or do you want to be that? Well, I didn't want to be that or this. I mean, I'd rather be someone.
So, what year do you start being a cop? What's the first year?
When was all that Rodney King shit?
That would have been 93.
Okay, so I wanted, it started, and that's when I started going through the ride-along programs and different things like that, and then I started.
How old are you? How old are you?
So,
But how old were you right then?
Oh man, I was in my 20s, dude.
Early 20s?
Maybe, yeah, something like that. I think just, I had my choice. I could either do, crime prevention, or I can do, the other thing. And I went the other way. I went crime prevention, but I still had to go out with these officers, you know what I'm saying, and be a part of that. We'd go around, and, my partner, he was not the female one, but my male partner. We would get the calls, and we'd have to go out there because he could talk Spanish. So, we always got the calls when we had to get there when they couldn't understand what they were talking about, okay, because none of the officers could speak Spanish, and they or Hispanic. I don't know what the correct what it is, but we would always go to these calls, and the worst one I was ever on was a domestic that some chick was said that she was raped, wound up at the end of it, she lied the whole time and got her man arrested, and found out when we got her to the hospital and we did the sex kit on her that she was lying. She never got raped. She was upset because her parents were pissed off at her because she ran away with them. So she tried to tell him he was overage though, so he still got arrested, but regardless, though, it's what it is. I had to make a decision on what I wanted to do.
So then you become a cop, and then Rodney King happens. And what's it like within the police force when Rodney King happens?
That was worst. I would say the worst time to be a cop, because nobody trusted anybody. Everybody, when you go out there, you always had your gear with you in case there was riots or whatever. Not all the police officers were scared that if they even did something wrong, said something wrong, that they were going to get in trouble or get written up or whatnot.
So the cops were afraid. The cops were afraid of the other cops.
Yeah.
So after Rodney King,
hung up. Yeah, getting hung.
Because cameras now are starting to pop up, right?
Yeah.
93. Now they got caught Rodney King beating him half to death because
the guy across the street
had a digital portable camera. But back then, remember, they were like $1,000 or $2,000.
Yeah.
They were really expensive in the 90s. So you're a cop, and Rodney King happens, and is there more camaraderie within policing, or the cops are afraid of each other?
No, they're afraid of each other. Everybody's afraid of each other. They knew me, and they knew how I was. They knew I wouldn't lie. They knew I wouldn't say anything against them. I wouldn't.
You're not going to lie on a report.
I'm not, and I wouldn't. I never would. And it's it was the point to where, like I said, even that guy that got his face slammed in the
when does this happen though? When is the first report that you write that contradicts another cop's report?
That one right there.
Okay. When he slammed on the brakes and put the guy's face into the back of the metal.
I wanted to know why his face was all bloody, and I said because hit the brakes. He hit the brakes in a cross. A pedestrian. Pedestrians have the right of way. That was his statement, that he stopped for a pedestrian that was crossing the crosswalk. And his statement was made to sound like he made just a normal stop to let the resident cross the street. That's not what he did. He slammed the brakes, smashing his face into the plexiglass. And that's why he was all bloody when he got to the jail. And I did not put that there. I put down in the report that his face was bloody is because our officer said that he slammed on the brakes to allow the resident to cross the road. Cop terminology back then would have been just at such and such time, we called to such and such, and place the subject into custody, place him in the back of the patrol car, during which he was belligerent and making statements to the fact of using curse words and different things like that toward the officers. And we would make the statement, or I made the statement, that he was using, that we're pieces of shit and blah, blah, blah. That was true. I didn't make that. But I felt, I said I felt that officer such and such didn't appreciate how he was being talked to. At one point, he saw a pedestrian at a crosswalk, at which point he slams on the brakes of the vehicle, implanting the subject's face into the plexiglass, causing the subject or the suspect to bleed from his nose. And so got him to the jail. Jailers took him, got him cleaned up. They didn't break his nose, thank God. And but that was just part of the stuff, dude.
So when your report contradicts report, the other cops, what does the superior say? What happens from that?
Nothing. I'm an asshole, one not to be trusted.
So that's the first time, and then from there on out, he said, yo, totally ratted me out.
No. And they're going to go in the back. We're going to have a talk is what we're going to need to do. And that's what we did. It wasn't a talk. It was a outright shouting match at first, and a couple of blows went up. That was how it ended at that point. And then obviously people wondered what was going on, and I told everybody, and don't trust me.
Oh, so came to you and said, I'm going to talk to you out back? And so you guys went out back?
He said his thing was that he said, I read your report. It's got nothing to do with him, or does it match mine? And I'm like, yeah, right. So what's your point? And I said, you should have never did that, man. Sorry. I'm not going to lie. I'm just not going to lie on the report. So I'm not going to feel responsible for something that you shouldn't have done. That's what he said. Let's go out, have a little talk in the back. He's a superior of mine now. Okay, he is not. He's not an equal to me. He's my superior. He wants to talk to me out in the back. So we went out in the back, and at which point he took his belt off. And I says, "Are we really going to do this?" He says, "I think you need to be taught a little lesson." And I'm like, "Okay, fine, let's go." Took mine off. I wound up kicking his ass. I said, "Listen, I'm not going to ever lie for anybody. I'm not going to do it. I didn't get into this for this. I didn't do this for this. This is not what I'm about." I said, if I feel like I am being dishonest, if I'm being put into this thing, do you remember when you were in the academy, man? I said, do you remember what you swore to do when you were in the academy and what you were supposed to do? You're supposed to protect the citizens. You're not supposed to fucking hurt them. You're not supposed to fuck with them, and you're not supposed to do what you did. And I said, and that's not me, and I don't want no part of that. Like I said, that was, like I said, that was the beginning of the end for me.
Was that after Rodney King?
No, that was before him. That was all before him.
So that's before him, and then you get into it. So it's somewhere between.
Right.
And so now you're not trusted. So when Rodney King happens.
No, I'm now at a different department now.
Oh, how long are you at that department?
Not very long.
So when they come out in the alleyway and you guys have just got done fighting and you're yelling at each other, and you're telling them, look, fuck you, man, I'm not going to just lie for you so that I can have it on my conscience. And then the other guys come out and he says, this guy wouldn't lie on his report.
And that's not what he said. That's not what no, he didn't say that. All you have to do is go read the two reports. And any smart person would go do that. They would read the reports, okay? And don't forget, everything we did was all handwritten reports. It wasn't like it is now with the MDT systems and everything else, The MDT systems, you write all your reports, everything's done through the computer systems. Now, or back then, we had MDT systems to run plates and shit like that, but it was a totally different MDT system. That is totally different. We can talk back and forth to dispatch, and we can, get information via the MDT, but we can't we can't write reports. All reports were handwritten. So if anybody was smart enough at the time, all they had to do was pull the reports once they were signed off and read them. And they would know what I did and what he did. And if my report was different than his report, or if I was told, and I was told to rewrite the report, and I told him, no, I'm not going to do it. And
hold on, wait. Let me follow this story down, and I want to get to that in a second. When everybody comes outside, I understand cops have different lingo.
They say
differently so that it can be under the radar.
so.
But everybody totally gets it. We saw that with Tommy Shinneman, where they planted the gun after murdering James Sheets.
Mm-hmm.
The private lingo, I'm hot. Remember that?
So
what's the lingo that uses after you kick this guy's ass and told him, look, I'm not going to be lying for you? What's the lingo? He says, don't trust this guy. He can't be trusted.
No, you can't. Okay. You don't. Whatever you do, don't have him back you up. That's the biggest thing. Okay. Don't ever think that you can throw a drop on somebody, or if you're in something and you try to get yourself in. If you're trying to get yourself out of something, dropping something such as drugs or a gun or anything else, you're not going to get away with it with me.
So, I'm sorry, can you go back? Because that's a terminology. A drop, you said?
Yeah, we call it a drop.
So, he tells the other guys, you don't want this guy around when you're in a pinch and need to do a drop.
Yeah.
That's the way
he said it. Never, because he's not gonna back you.
He's not gonna back you.
Yep. I'm not gonna lie. In other words,
I want to hear the cop terminology, how he would have said it. He would have said, he's not gonna back you if you have to do a drop. Is that the right sentence?
Do not trust him if you're doing a drop. That's regardless of what the drop is. If it's a gun, drugs, whatever, it's drop. It's a drop.
It's such a common term in the cop world that everybody knows what a drop is.
Everybody knew what a drop was. Everybody.
How does
Chille, I'm telling you because you're not off, okay? And what you believe and what you think. And that's why I've always stood up for you. And that's why I know what these fuckers did to James Sheets. What's his wife's name again?
Christy Roan.
Christy, okay? So and that's why I feel bad for her, because I know what happened. I know what happened. You know where the gun was dropped at. It wasn't the guy. It wasn't when you thought it was in his hand. It wasn't that guy. It was the guy that went through the window. The guy that went through the window is the one that dropped it. He's the one that dropped the gun, and he's the one that put that gun in that car. And I'm telling you, that's exactly when it happened. That was never when during our conversation.
I think the gun was in the guy's hand.
I'm telling you, the guy that dropped it in the window. He pushed his body through the car. While that asshole was holding the shield, he had that shield in his hand. If you look closely on that film, his hands are clear, man. I'm telling you, it's that dude that went inside the car. That's just my opinion. That's just my.
Where we agree that they planted a gun.
I 100% know that he did.
100%.
They dropped a gun.
Hmm?
So it's such a common term that just everybody knows what a drop is.
Every
cop force knows. So when he says don't trust if you have to do a drop, regardless of what the drop is. So right. Do cops carry around a gun, some drugs, a needle?
Always. Especially if you're dependent that you're working for. Mostly like all the sheriffs, like LA sheriffs, and the gangs that the sheriff's department has are all true blue, and they are gangs. And LAPDs have the same situation. All of them, every one of them. Whenever they find a gun that serial numbers have been written or have been taken off, they have them. That's their drop. That's what they use as a drop. A bed sheet. They usually have a knife or a gun on them. That's why they always wear gloves too, by the way, because they're always wiping that shit down. It's just dirty shit. You know,
the cops always have an extra gun or a knife on them.
Mm-hmm.
So that would mean that if we were going to audit a cop and truly audit them,
mm-hmm.
then we would be able to pull that cop car over, jerk the cops out of the car, and strip search them. And we would find on them contraband.
I would say 80% yes. 80%.
That, and
80%.
if we search the entire car,
drugs.
Then 4 out of 5 cops' cars.
I would say, depending how long the officer's been around, rookies 9 times out of 10, no. Okay, they haven't been in it long enough because they're trying to do what they set out to do. But then they get to the point to where they're in the dirty side of it and they see all what's really happening out there. Okay, respect goes a long way with a police officer. If you respect the police officer, or if the officer he's bad news, watch Tom Zebra. Tom's got these guys down. Just like when you were on that call and you were on that with SVG, and I wanted to mention this to you. And you saw those cops in the back car.
Drugs.
Right. They were trying to plan on them. Okay, they were trying to plan them, but you made such a stink that they had to get that shit out of there, and that's why they let that chick go. Number one, that's why they took the car regardless, because they may not have gotten the drugs out of that car. Remember when you kept asking, "I'll drive the car away, I'll take the car away"? Well, they weren't going to let you take that car away because the drugs were probably still in the car. They probably couldn't. They didn't have a chance to get out because they got how many cameras on? Okay. And if the car is still there and the drugs are still in the car, they can't very well let you take that car. And that is probably why they'd never let that car go. There was no reason why they shouldn't have let you take in that car. No reason at all. Because especially if it just got out of impound, they should have never, ever, the lady was nuts, yeah, whatever, but if she was able to drive and she had a driver's license, they could have released the car to her. What was it really going to hurt? Because the plates were expired? Who gives a shit? You know what I mean? You're going to take the car home, take it home. How many times have you seen a police officer just write up a person for having bad tags? Make sure you get your new tags. This could be a fixless ticket or whatever. Just get it taken care of as soon as possible. Here's your ticket. Take off. Have a nice day. But no, they had to make a big deal about it. Take the guy to, whatever. And the only reason why she was cleared is because of you guys. That was the only reason why. If you guys weren't there, she would have been gone, man, with no hesitation whatsoever.
I don't know. I got there and they already had the car.
They were in the back. They were in the back of the car. That's where you caught them at. That's where you caught them.
Yeah. They were in the They were in the boot. That's right.
Right, and they were in a 3-way position to where one could be in the car and the other two were behind him. So he could have planted the drugs anywhere on the seat itself. Takes what, 20 seconds to do a plant, or drop it. It doesn't take any time at all to do something like that.
Shorter than that. Even shorter than that.
Dude, they get accommodations for this shit, man. That's how they get their raises. That's how they get, they get more money because they make these busts or tickets that they write. They're man. They don't give a shit. They don't care about, society and who they work for, man. That's the problem. They forget who they work for. They forget they work for the citizens. They talk about integrity and honor and duty, and none of that means anything. That's a joke that's on their car. It's a joke. You look at that and you say, where's your honor, man? Where's your integrity?
They don't have any.
None. Zero.
Because when those cops, when you and those cops were told that they couldn't trust you if they needed to do a drop, how many of the cops turned their back on you?
That was a different city. It was.
Whenever that happened, though, how many of those cops turned their back on you?
All of them did. That's why I left. So that's why, you know,
all of them.
And the ones that you could trust are the rookies coming in. But even then,
I'm shocked that all of them turn their back on you because
Chille, they have to, because if they don't, then that means they're just as much of a piece of shit as I am. Okay, as far as in their head, they know that if I'm on the street and I see something that's going to get them not just fired but possibly put in jail, they wanted nothing to do with me, you know, because all they have to do is fuck up one time and they're done. You know what I'm saying? And if it comes down to where, you know, if it's me or them, it ain't going to be me. You know what I'm saying? And that's why I always carried a recorder on me, because if anything happened, you know, I recorded everything. I still got my tapes, man. I still got tapes from back then. You know, it's something that, you know, you had to protect yourself.
But let me ask you a question. You know, if you get pulled over and you haven't
created the victim.
Ask me how many times I cuffed somebody. I'm surprised you never asked me that question.
Well, we haven't gotten into the meat and potatoes of it. We really, like, you know what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of questions here. But, like, when you pull someone over and there's no victim, it's just frustrating because it's hard to respect that.
Yeah, unless it was a serious offense, you know what my standard operation usually was: read this passage from the Bible and understand it. Go on, all right, but don't do it again. That was my standard shit. Or I would never. 9 times out of 10, if it was a serious situation, then I'd have to do what I had to do. But if it's a bar fight, or if I was in danger, or if I was by myself, I had to use my cuff. You know what I mean? I had to, you know, to get the guy under control. You know, we didn't have the tie sticks back then, you know, and that stuff was standard operation, you know. Or if the guy was a fat ass, you know, I would have to use double cuffs on the guy, you know.
We're going to get rid of them. There's going to be better ways.
I like the zip ties. I personally like the zip ties. You know, you put them on and you cut them off.
Yeah, but
you haven't done any. Listen, if you haven't done any of seriousness of a situation, there should be no reason why
you need to be shackled
in the back. Yeah, there's no reason to that. Okay, I'm basing it upon my experience now. Okay, and I told you, you know, when I got in trouble, you know, I saw it this side of what happened. You know how people were being treated and what was going on. You know, I was treated like shit, man. And I know why, but you know, I was treated like shit, and I would never let anybody know who I was or what my past was. You know, there was no way that or if somebody could have slipped it out, and I could have been in big trouble, man, if somebody would have slipped that hey man, this guy used to be a cop, man, you better watch him. You know, he might be in here to sit up, you know. I mean, that was one thing that I did worry about when I was in there. You know, I had to go, when I went into jail, when I first went into the jail, I told the guy, I said, man, I'm concerned because some of these people I might have arrested, you know what I'm saying? And they had to put me in protective custody. And, you know, that was in protective custody for a week. I couldn't take it anymore. I said, put me in general, Pop. I can't stand being in this room one more day. If I'm in that room one more day, I'm going to lose it. And, you know, they finally put me in general, Pop, but I never had any problems. And,
when you were in jail, what'd you get arrested for?
Drugs. I got in trouble.
Oh, okay.
That's what I got in trouble for.
You kind of jumped the story a little bit.
Yeah, it's okay. But you know, like I said,
and that's what happened.
Nothing that I am proud of. The only thing that I was proud of was the fact that when I worked for the crime prevention unit and was able to be with the kids and do things with the kids, or if I was doing, the neighborhood block watches and stuff like that, or doing community resource policing, that was fun, and I loved it. And that was, but like I said, you were still part of an organization that you see that when sitting around and they're talking about the shit that they pulled that night, or or what they could have done to somebody, or the fact that I was trying to give this guy, I was hoping he was get upset that he was going to have a heart attack. I heard a cop say that one time, that he was trying to get this guy just so upset that he was trying to get him to give him a heart attack or something because he was so fucked up, I mean, that's the kind of shit you hear about, and it's just not right, man. It's not right.
Well, it sounds like the people who become cops are just scumbags.
Well, they're not out to be. I mean, whenever I always told you, I said there are good cops out there. There are, and I've known a few, and believe me, and if there was something happening and I saw them on the side of the street and something was going on, I would jump out of my car and I'd help. 9 times out of 10, that would not be the case. I'd try to drag by. You know what I'm saying? But if I know the guy was a dirty cop, I got problems going on down here right now, and it's with the chief of police of the city that I live in right now, along with sheriff's department that I've been dealing with. And the chief of police knows the people that I've been dealing with. So now I'm having issues with the chief of police here that, I told him, and I can, let you read the emails and stuff that I sent him. But I told him, I said, you want to act like a piece of shit, you go ahead. I said, I can have fucking 10 auditors in this city in 10 minutes. You want to pull some shit on me, go ahead. I says, my car's cameras. I got cameras all over my car. I says, any of your officers pull me over and try to pull any shit, I said, trust me, I'll have your job in a minute. It didn't go over very well. So that's the issues I'm having right now with the chief of police here. And, I've been doing nothing but trying to help this community and and stuff like that, and warning and dispatchers. Most of the officers I have no problems with, but the chief of police is a dirty son of a bitch. When you said you were coming here that time, and you said maybe I ought to do an audit on your city, I'm like, I would love that, but I would love. Oh yeah, sheriff's department needs it badly, and could be put in their place. Something awful. Because there are so much drugs, and there's a lot of things going on in this city, right now. And part of it's the police departments, and just how dirty they are. There are a lot of dirty cops on this department. Everybody knows, it's just a bunch of shit, man.
Yeah.
You know cop when you see it, and there's a lot of them, especially when you've been around them. When it takes place, you call them out, like I did with the chief, going with with the mayor. Just some of the shit that I caught him on. I said, if I says and I says I'm watching you guys like hawks. I said, you ain't ever for shit that you guys are pulling. And I said, don't for when I can see you perfect. The biggest thing was, though, is I heard that I was going to get pulled over one day and probably get the book thrown at me or something like that. I said, bring it on. I said, I'm ready for you.
Right.
I said, my cars are full of cameras. I said, and they're audio. I said, the audio mics, I got audio mics set up, and I got cameras. I got 3 sets of cameras in the car and an audio mic. I said, go ahead and play your little games. I don't trust them anymore, and that's what I told you. And I says, it's just the facts of what it is, because I've been around it. I know the games that they play, and I know how they can, they can manipulate things, and they can manipulate.
So it's kind of funny. You went from dreaming of being a cop to becoming a cop to realizing you had to be a liar, and that most of them carried drop items.
Mm-hmm. I never had.
And no, I'm sure you didn't, dude. I'm sure you didn't. And then, dude.
Yeah, dude. You try to think the best of people. You do. And I'm talking about police officers and stuff. But that's what I made that comment about. Something happens when they put that uniform on. It's like they think they're superheroes, or they think
they become f***ing assholes.
Yeah, but that's the problem. Emblem on their chest is not an emblem of integrity. It's an emblem of I'm nothing but a dirtbag. I can destroy your life in 1 minute, make your life a living hell if you really want me to. Thank God I know my right. But what about the people that don't?
It gives them a right to be a bully.
Be a bully. Watch how much of a bully I can be. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? Just because they think they got a badge and a gun, they think they're, number one, I said, and I always say this all the time, I said, one of these days I'm going to see you. You're not going to have that badge and gun up. Just like that one time we had with County Sheriff that right now with what he did to me. You know what I mean? And then he did it out of retaliation. And I called them a bunch of pieces of shit because they said, you're gone, man. And that's what I told him. And I told him, you're just a scumbag. And he went to my car, and the courts let it go through. And the judge found me guilty but it's still, they charged me for it. And it was a bullshit case. It was just total retaliation. And this is the same cop that knows the chief of police here in where I live. And that's why he's been treating me like shit. And, they tried to get me for the lights that are on my car and different things like that. They lost all that shit. They couldn't do nothing to it, and they knew it. But I mean, with me because of this asshole, go ahead, man. I'm ready for you. I said, I got a good lawyer. I said, I'm ready for you. Bring it on, man. He says, I got money. I said, I can fight. I says, some of these people can't, unfortunately. See, I do. I got money. I says, I have money in the bank. I says, I do the out of you guys. And I says, you guys screw with me. You find yourself in a lawsuit. Go ahead, man. It's sad what it's come to, man. You can't even trust a police officer, and your kids they're at stake. You know what I mean? By upbringing. How many kids respect police officers now? None, Hart.
None.
Very rare.
They think they're scum.
Yeah. You think these kids don't watch these YouTube channels, man? They love this YouTube shit, man. They watch this crap all the time. And I can't tell you about it. And he tells me all the time, pieces of shit these cops are. You act like that? No, never, ever. And I said, no. Why do you not doing that? You know what I mean? So
it's pretty sad, dude.
It is, and you look back at the past and look back in the '60s and how African Americans were treated and being beaten for sitting, in a bus, in the wrong seat, or drinking out of a water fountain that was for whites only.